That song is very emotional, and Doug did a great job in displaying that, the passion behind it. There's one part in it that says that, you know, at this point, all that matters is what you think of me. And I can relate to that wholeheartedly. There's been some times in my life that I've just stepped back from everything I'd been doing and just been absorbed by God, you know, and just said, you know, all that matters right now is, you know, being with you, wholeheartedly being with you, and the experience I have with you, because everything else, it seemed to just disappoint, not work. And I surrendered, and I felt this release and this joy and this overflow. Oh, I totally relate to that. Oh, okay. This topic for this service is going to be the ways of love. And that is something that the Unity tradition celebrates in a whole bunch of different ways. We're all experiencing love in our hearts in different ways. Sometimes it's fleeting, you know, these moments of fleeting love. And sometimes there's this period of absence. Kind of like the song, there's this lack of awareness of love for a time period in our lives. So there's this need to devote ourselves to experiencing something different because we have this lack of awareness. So typically what brings us to a spiritual path or some healing modality is this lack of awareness of love at varying degrees. And so in a way, love is speaking to us at that time because we're not feeling it, but yet we want it. There's a remembrance of it, because ultimately we all come from the one love, God. That's where we're all, in a sense, originating from, outside of this world, outside of consciousness. So there's a memory. It may be very distant. Sometimes it's just kind of in the background of this place. It's not really a place like this world, but this, you could call it a song or a vibration or a presence, but it's this memory of being at home with God. So that's always playing a tune in us, this love language all the time. And so it brings us to certain relationships in our lives. And it tells us maybe to do this, to do that. And it's speaking in different vocabularies to us. And we love to listen to it in our own practical ways. That's how we want to listen to it most of the time. We want to surrender to it when we're ready to surrender to it. And that can take some delay on our part in actually realizing the joy that love has for us, because we want to control when we're willing to have it come in. So there can be this resistance to it because we know if we go into it full-heartedly, that we're going to experience this release and our life's going to change. It's going to change, be totally different than what it's been. And we may not be ready for that. So we delay, we resist, and we're in fear. And the fear is what's really driving a lot of our activities from day to day, is fear. There may be some moments of love and appreciation, but unless we're experiencing joy, peace, and contentment, there's an element of fear. It's either we're in love, joy, and peace, or we're in fear. So those are the only two states of consciousness that we can be in. And when we're totally present with ourselves, we can acknowledge that this is going on. We may not even be aware that that's what's happening. So that's why we go into these practices, we come to the spiritual path, is to start to realize what's really going on in our hearts, in our lives. And we start to do some meditation, we start to pray, we start to meet new people. Maybe we join some club, we get a new job, we spend more time on the phone with someone that wants what we have, and we want from them, we want to experience what they have. And so this is where we're going. And the part of us that doesn't want the love, the fear, is predominantly in our awareness. And so we need to find a way to undo it. And my path for undoing that has been the Course in Miracles. It's been one of the paths for me. And other people have different modalities they use to undo their fear. Just basically doing meditation, prayer, listening to their intuition, listening to their hearts, following that guidance from day to day, and seeing where it takes them. There may not be a specific path for them in the world. They're not like reading the Bible. They're not reading the Quran. They're not doing Buddhism. They're just listening to that intuition. And that's the way of love for them. Okay. The Course of Miracles doesn't speak to them. Maybe music speaks to them. Maybe it's nature. They go out and they do fishing. They go for walks. They go for hikes, bike rides. And when they're out there, they feel this love. So that brings them to a certain relationship with the spirit. But they can't stop there. There's this longing that keeps you going, and it's persistent. It's there until you are full-heartedly involved in the light and peace and joy. That love is going to be there in your heart. It's going to be calling you to do more and more with your body. So I'm going to read a little part in the Course of Miracles that talks about how this transition occurs. This is in chapter 2, and it talks about the first creative step in undoing the error of identifying with fear is to know that the conflict is experienced inside of you. So that's the first step, is that there's some conflict inside of you that you're experiencing fear. That's the reason for it. You're in fear right now because of some conflict. So you say to yourself that you must somehow have chosen not to love, or the fear could not have risen. Then the process can begin. And you say to yourself, know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. Perfect love is the atonement. I have emphasized that the miracle for the expression of the atonement is always a sign of respect from worthy to worthy. I'd just like to pause there for a minute. So it's an expression from worthy to worthy. So when I'm experiencing the love of God, I'm looking out into my brothers and sisters, and I am knowing that they are worthy of that love. And I'm feeling it myself. And there's this sense of equality that's being extended from me. And when I'm in the fear, in the conflict, I'm looking out at my brothers and sisters, and I'm saying that I'm not worthy of receiving them. They can't come into my life, and I don't seem to have anything to add to their lives. So I might be prevented from having a relationship with someone because of that, because I feel insecure. And I may be calling out for some help, and I don't know where the help's going to come from. I might be in a position for that. So the atonement is the answer. The miracle is the answer. It is obvious then that when you are afraid, you have placed yourself in a position where you need help. You have done something loveless, having chosen without love. This is precisely the situation in which the atonement was offered. The need for the remedy inspired its establishment. As long as you recognize only the need for the remedy, you will remain fearful. So just pause there just for a moment too. So the way love comes to you, like I spoke about at the beginning, was you're feeling this absence of the love. So, but you want something different. And what it's saying is, as long as you remain there, longing for it, feeling the absence, it's not enough. And you're going to remain fearful. So you got to take it deeper. You got to go deeper into it. And this is, everyone's path's different with this. There's something inside each of us that's just holding us back. And I don't know what that is for everyone. I don't know. Maybe it's a special partner. Maybe it's a relationship with your children. Maybe it's you don't know what's going to happen if you just totally go into the love. You don't know what your world's going to look like. You may have a lot of judgments. It doesn't matter. But each of us need to come to this borderland with ourselves. And maybe we stay there for a while. Maybe we stay there for years, even months. You can call it the dark night of the soul. St. John of the Cross spoke about that. But we need to recognize that that's what's going on. And the only remedy is love. It's the only way we're really going to get out of it. That we may spend a lot of time seeking for the love outside of ourselves, in relationships, in money, in acquiring things, in being a better human, and maybe being smarter. There might be some insecurity going on. I want to be smarter. So I spend a lot of time educating myself, acquiring more knowledge. That might be another path. The fear is there, and it needs to be managed by us in a way, because God does not know fear. So when we ask God to help us with our fears, God responds, well, why are you scared? There's nothing to be scared of. You need to take your own fear to God. So you take the illusion that you're experiencing to the truth. The truth doesn't come in and take over our minds and make us loving. It just doesn't work that way, because it'd be interfering with our will. We got to voluntarily give up our fears to God. And we got to be doing some mindfulness practices, some prayers, whatever you want to call it. Some mind wandering is going on in there. And so we got to stop it somehow and identify it as a block to love's presence, and let go. And it says here that everyone experiences fear. So we're not alone. Every human being coming here, even the most enlightened beings, have experienced fear. Buddha experienced fear. Jesus experienced fear. If you're on this earth, simply just by being in the body, you're going to experience fear. You may have done a good job after some time with some skill and some work and just some trust in God to experience it less and less and less. But there's going to be some times where you're still in the body that you experience fear. And yet it would take very little right thinking to realize why fear occurs. Few appreciate the real power of the mind, and no one remains fully aware of it all the time. However, if you hope to spare yourself from fear, there are some things you must realize, and realize fully. The mind is very powerful and never loses its creative force. It never sleeps. Every instant it is creating. It is hard to recognize that thought and belief combine into a power surge that literally can move mountains. It appears at first glance that to believe such power about yourself is arrogant, but this is not the real reason you do not believe it. You prefer to believe that your thoughts cannot exert real influence because you are actually afraid of them. And this brings us back to the self-love, is that we are afraid of our thoughts and what's going on. There's some guilt, maybe a shadow self, the insecurity, the unworthiness is coming up. We don't want to feel the pain. Maybe there's something going on from the past that when we have a relationship with something, it triggers those fears and those insecurities in us when we go deeper into the relationship with whoever it is. Could be a church members. Maybe you had a traumatic experience with a church, or maybe you start to develop a new partner or a job or whatever it is, and you go deeper and deeper into that relationship and you devote yourself and you get to some place in it, and then you go back and you judge it and you start attacking it. And so this is what happens. And you might even notice these cycles in your life, these patterns. But the only way to stop them is to learn that they're in your mind and they're your thoughts. And you're ultimately afraid of your thoughts. And you need to use your thoughts differently. You can go to God with your thoughts. You take them, you stop, you're still, and you just ask God to help you with your thoughts. God, show me a miracle here. I don't know what's best for me in this situation. And just let go completely. You know, it's easier said than done. But if we suffer enough, we're going to do it. It's going to take us there. And we're going to eventually give up our own control of the situation or the relationship. This may ally awareness of guilt, but at the cost of perceiving the mind as impotent. So another part of realizing you're in fear is that you may feel as though that you have no power with that fear. Like you may feel limited, helpless. You can't do anything to help this person that's suffering. You may feel that you can't do anything to help yourself get ahead at your job, or to help out humanity with all the sickness that's going on. You may feel just bitterly afraid and guilty and estranged from things. But your mind is working in that capacity. So when you're thinking that way and you don't know you're thinking that way, and it's just kind of a program, you generate more witnesses to your reality. So you'll start to meet more people to witness to you that what you believe about yourself is true. So the pattern continues that way. You just continue to do that over and over and over again. You repeat the past over and over again. It's insanity. That's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different to happen. But you're not aware of it. Like it says, this happens while you're sleeping, and we're asleep to it. How do we wake up from our sleep? Well, we can simply just ask to be awakened. We can sincerely do that. That's the easier, softer way. Or we can wait around to suffer enough. And then it'll just kind of naturally occur out of the suffering. You know, go in our cocoon for a couple weeks, wake up the beautiful butterfly. But that may be longer than 2 weeks, maybe 2 years, 20 years. If you believe that what you think is ineffectual, you may cease to be afraid of it, but you are hardly likely to respect it. There are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces some form at some level. So another thing that you might, like there's certain therapies that depreciate the thought patterns. Like you might be having a fear and they might minimize it. Say, well, it's just, don't worry about it. It's not really that important what you're doing. But to you, your experience of it is important. All right. So it could be helpful in extinguishing your importance on it. But what it really needs to do is give you an alternative to it, because your mind is always active and you need to start engaging in something different. So if you don't have an alternative to your darkness, some light to experience, you're going to remain in the darkness. So that's what we need to do, is we need to open ourselves up to the alternative, which is the love. The love that's shining through us always, at all times. It's an eternal love. We're using finite ways to identify with the eternal. These finite ways are through our perceptions, our body appetites for things. And even the appetite for more love is a finite way for experiencing eternal love. It's kind of a paradox, but it's inside of us. There's this longing to want to meditate more, want to pray more, want to read more about spiritual practices, want to come to church more. That is a finite way. It's a temporary way to experience the eternal. So at some point, even those things become empty. And you may come to a point in your spiritual path that they're not doing it for you anymore. You're not depressed clinically. You're just kind of in this empty space, and all your stuff, your modalities just aren't working anymore. And that's usually a sign that you've entered a dark night of the soul. Say you don't have any like outstanding resentments here. You don't have anyone that you're hating against. You don't have anything that you need to make amends about. There's no trauma from the past. There's no clinical depression. And you've used up all your practices, your prayers, your meditation. They're not doing it for you. And you don't know. Dark night of the soul has emerged. There's really nothing you can do about that, but just stay there with it. Be fully present with it. And I think most of us have gone through that at some point in our awakening. And what we need, for me at least, when I'm in that, is I need to continue to share what's going on with me, with my world. That helps me. I need to continue to do that. And because what can happen is that dark night of the soul can turn into something else. Nothing's doing it for me anymore. Doesn't matter if I get a promotion, my job means nothing. My kid might do something really cool. It doesn't really do it for me anymore. You might have some sort of person that it was going through some healing transformation. They come to you and tell you all these great things that are happening to them. It's like, whatever. It's like, just nothing here is doing it. And you feel this, it's like almost a depression in a way, but it's more just seeing things as they really are. This world is not it. The external appetites that you've been seeking out from the world are not doing it for you anymore. You may be tired. All this other stuff, these other symptoms may be showing up. But it's just a time that dark night is emerging. And through that, though, if you sit through the dark night, the glory of God is going to emerge. The light is going to come through. And what you'll find is this peace, this invulnerable peace, it's very subtle, starting to show up for you. It's kind of fleeting at first, but there's this longing for it. You want more of it. And that's where you stay with that. It's like when you meet someone for the first time, your partner for the rest of your life, you don't want to just spend a little bit of time with them, right? You want to spend all your time with them. No, just like, well, I'll just meet them for coffee a couple of days a week. You know, when you really start to feel that connection, love, you just want to spend all your time with them. This is what God wants, spending all your time just in awe and waiting, you know, for it. Now, the awe is difficult when you're in the dark night of the soul. It's very difficult to be in that awe, all right? But yet you still do it. It's like that song, I'm still feeling the unworthiness, but I still believe. Another thing is I still am in awe of creation. There's this sense, even though you might not feel that through, like in a spiritual way, you're still wanting it. And we're all on our paths to finding that. But once the awe turns into a direct experience of love, then you're home. So that memory that we had from a long, long time ago when we were home with God, it starts to return here on earth, and your world transforms into more of like a heaven. And this is the way of love. First, it brings us from the suffering, okay? It tells us we need to do the spiritual practices, and we start doing them. We start experiencing the love, the peace, the joy, transformation. And then for some reason, there's times where it doesn't do it anymore, and we're in this kind of borderland, this dark night. And then the dark night gets undone, and then there's the joy, the peace through that inside us. And then we start to recognize the kingdom of heaven here on earth. Okay? And then we start to serve. We start to serve our brothers and sisters. And this is speaking to us in all different ways, and we're all on it together. And what I would suggest is that for this week is, how is the way of love speaking to you right now? You know, everyone, to really go within and ask yourself, how is love speaking to me right now? The divine love. What's it saying to me? And just say yes to that. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Get really like intelligent. Just do it. You know, take some risks with it. You know, you may make a mistake, but really to God, it's not a mistake. In the world's eyes, you may, you know, stumble a little bit. It doesn't matter, because ultimately you are love. You can't really hurt God, which is essentially yourself, because you are the child of God. So you can't really hurt that spirit self that you are. All right. And that might bring you comfort knowing that. So play with it this week. Explore the way love is speaking to you and have fun with it. It's a journey of exploration, like a little kid. Like, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven except through the mind of a child. You know, the consciousness of a child enters the kingdom because they're in wonderment. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. So I leave you with that. Thank you.